Good evening and welcome once again to the monthly connection. And that's what it is. It is a connection of kindred spirits literally around the globe. We love you. You're going to feel that love all evening long. Some of you are not going to be watching it in the evening. You'll be watching it at your leisure on a recording, but it doesn't matter. The love is still part of this field that we all create, all entangled together through our shared intention to learn and grow together and celebrate that we get it. We get that we are souls in a human body, and we are here to create loving experiences, to grow from our challenges, to evolve individually and as a species. That is living the awakened way, and I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you. I am back in South Carolina. You notice the background. You might recognize it from past connection webinars. After 5 months of traveling, we got home 1 week ago, not even a week. Yeah, 1 week ago today. And just getting settled back in, it feels really good to be stable for a while. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful to all of you. We just love these gatherings. So I want to thank Lynette and Bev for the pregame show and for making all of this possible. I want to thank them for all their help on everything else that they do. You all have no idea how much work goes into keeping this, the messages and the ripples flowing outward, but you're part of that too, all of you. Also want to thank Valerie, our wonderful email responder who responds with love to those that I can't get to and make sure we don't miss any important emails. And she works on the newsletter. We have Jayesh, who does our technical side of things. And I hope you all will check out my newly refreshed, updated homepage. It is beautiful. It finally has the feel that I've been looking for, but didn't know how to achieve. And then Stephanie, who's helping with promotion for my upcoming book, The Awakened Way. That'll be out in April. So you're going to hear about it every month till it's ready. We'll have some really great promotions for that and giveaways and contests and quizzes and all kinds of fun things. So let's see. Yeah, we mentioned some announcements. So it's kind of, I was thinking this is like church, you know, you do the announcements before you get to the main things, but these are great announcements. Just ready today, thanks to Bev working in the background, to announce 2 upcoming in-person live classes in Savannah, Georgia. The first weekend in January, I'm teaching my personal mediumship plus class. That's for mediums and non-mediums. Anybody who wants to learn to connect with spirit, but doesn't want to practice one-on-one readings with somebody else, you get the tools and the techniques and the deep background. That's the plus part of personal mediumship plus. But for those of you who want to go a little deeper, take mediumship a little bit more seriously, the following weekend, again in Savannah, Georgia, is my Serving Spirit Level 1 class. And in that one, you actually get to test your abilities. Some people are always surprised because they've never done a reading with somebody else in a nice, safe classroom environment and find out that you can do this too. That is my goal, to show us that, to show everybody that anybody can learn to connect with higher consciousness. Why? Because we are all souls. I'm not a born medium, and I could not be more thrilled with the connection that I've been able to open up. I'm still celebrating the last reading I did right here in this chair just a couple of days ago, bringing through a son from someone who was in my class in London, little 8-year-old son. So clear. He gave us so many gold nuggets of evidence. We were just joyous. Just joyous. There was no doubt it was him. I'm going to be sharing all of the details from that reading in a live webinar with Helping Parents Heal on December 6th. So if you're a member of Helping Parents Heal, you can sign up for that webinar December 6th. And I think it's free. They might start charging a little bit. I'm not sure. But right as of now, it is. And if you're not a member of Helping Parents Heal, why go to helpingparentsheal.org and become one. And we'll have a really great evening December 6th. That's another special day. December 6th, I start teaching an 8-week live online course with the Shift Network in soul-to-soul communication. Yes, I've taught this one in the past. It was the most popular course ever taught on the Shift Network, so they asked me to teach it again. But of course, I'm always evolving as well. I'm learning new things every time I do a reading and always updating my stories, refining the teaching points. So I'm really looking forward to that 8 weeks with whoever feels drawn to that. There's a link to that. Is that on my website, Bev? No, you're muted. There we go.
Not yet, but we'll get it up there so people have an easy way to find it.
Great. And we'll include the link in the email that goes out with this video, how you can get more information. There's a free event, even if you don't want to sign up for the class, talking about soul-to-soul communication on November 18th in the afternoon. So we'll get information out about that as well. The Channeling for Charity event, if you didn't join us before the webinar started, I want to make sure I talk about that. December 3rd, 2 o'clock Eastern time. I will be here in this room with a few people just to hold sacred space in person with me, but live online for anybody who signs up for Channeling for Charity. I'm going to do a full-length channeling, bringing Sanaya through. When I say full-length, for the last few months in these evening programs, I've channeled a brief message from Sanaya, but this will be probably about a half an hour of hearing straight from the spirit world. They told us they'll talk a little bit about how to better deal with world events, which we'll discuss tonight, but from me, not directly from spirit. And we're asking for contributions for that event, the amount of your choice. We're asking for a minimum of $15, I think, because we're raising money for care camps for kids. Information about all of these events is right on my homepage under featured events. Care Camps for Kids is a beautiful charity that allows children with cancer to attend camp for free, and I believe their family members can go as well, to be with other kids who know what they're going through and just be kids for a while. It's incredibly therapeutic, and we've given tens of thousands of dollars to care camps in the last couple of years, thanks to all of you. So you get to enjoy a great channeling session, and through your generosity in your heart, we get to help kids with cancer. So thank you for checking out the info on that on my homepage. And then somebody asked, is there going to be another cruise? Drum roll, please. We just got the green light tonight to announce 2024, September 19th to 29th. That's 10 days of an Awaken Way Mediterranean Odyssey. Yes, indeed. When Life Journeys saw how much people enjoyed the Alaska cruise, and let me tell you, my team and I were right up there too. We were blown away by the energy of all of us coming together, a retreat at sea, the sacredness of being with kindred spirits on the water, enjoying beautiful scenery. And they offered me a cruise. I said, I want to go to the Mediterranean. And we chose an itinerary that goes to all but one place that Ty and I actually sailed our sailboat to. So we're going to Spain and France and Italy and Malta. That's the one place I haven't been, and Greece and Turkey. Several stops in some of those countries, including Santorini, one of my favorite places on earth, the island of Santorini in Greece. But I hope you will check out the link right on my homepage for the Awaken Way Mediterranean Odyssey. I know it will sell out. I also know that this is a very big ticket item, and I know that not everybody can afford it. I wish I could take every one of you with me, but it's also a bucket list item. And so if it's one of those things that's meant to happen, it'll happen. And I'll probably be doing more cruises in the future, but I do try to balance out these higher price things with things like now we're doing my podcast free for everybody every week. You can see me free online. And of course, the Daily Way messages are always free with the Awaken Way app, and lots of gifts on my website that we're always adding to. So in one way or another, I hope that we get to meet up at some point live. If not, thanks to the internet, here we are. So this evening, I want to thank, speaking of the internet, a wonderful angel named Isabel. And I know she's tuning in this evening. Out of the goodness of her heart, she volunteered to start translating some of my YouTube videos into Spanish, giving us, what are they called? Captions. She's putting Spanish captions on some of my more popular videos. And so if any of you know anybody who could benefit from that, so far we have 3 that she's done, a whole channeling session that I did at Unity Village back in 2021. She has translated and done captions for The Sip of the Divine and 7 Steps to Connecting with Higher Consciousness, my Blessed Me method. So those are now available to anybody in the Spanish-speaking world. And as a Spanish major, I can tell you, I read the captions and just say, wow, it still contains the same energy of spirit and the beautiful perfect translation. And her next one that she's already working on is Archangel Michael is Real, a very popular video that's out there now. So if you speak Spanish or know somebody who would like that, let's get that word out to the Spanish-speaking world. And muchísimas gracias a Isabel. Eres una ángel. All right. So let's see. This evening, a little bit different than other evenings. Usually I have a lot of short topics that we talk about, but after sharing evidence from the greater reality, like I do every time we do one of these sessions, I'm going to spend close to an hour talking about how the brain affects our connection with higher consciousness. Even if you're not a medium, don't we all want to learn how to connect with our own loved ones? So understanding how the left brain and the right brain, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brain work together and also work opposite of each other and can impede or improve your connection will, I know, be really interesting to you and beneficial. This is information that I shared on the Alaska cruise, and since I've taught it there, now I'm ready to share it with a wider audience. So looking forward to that, and then a lot of smaller topics, and we will, near the end of this evening, do a guided meditation on finding peace within and sending peace outward. Couldn't we all use some of that? And it's really going to be interesting because I don't know how it's going to come out. Sanaya has told me that they will guide my words. So I know it will be divine. All righty. How's that sound? Sound good? I know some of you are new here. I hope you're just going to love this evening. And those of you who come back month after month, welcome back. We love you all. Let's begin, as we always do, with an invocation, because anytime we gather together, we form one field. And with our shared intention of learning and growing together, that just solidifies that field. So let's acknowledge, celebrate that, and set an intention as a group for the evening. And as individuals, of course, just allow your eyes to close for a moment and take a nice relaxing breath. Very slowly exhale and relax your body as you do so. This always feels so good. If it doesn't feel really good, let's do it again. Hopefully you're feeling just a little relief and realizing you might have been holding in more stress and tension than you were aware of. So just let it go and relax into this moment here and now. Set aside anything else you might be multitasking with right now and just move your awareness to the heart and realize that you have set this time aside for yourself. Feel gratitude and appreciation for you for giving yourself this gift. And now set the intention that you hear exactly what you need to hear this evening. We also hold the vision that each of us will receive healing and wisdom and an energetic upgrade simply by being present in this energy. I've already asked my guides to be present, and we ask everyone else's guide to turn up their light in the presence of each of you, and that you feel yourself and know yourself to be surrounded by love, not just now, but always. And we're just so grateful for this opportunity to learn and grow together as we affirm that all of this is coming to pass. So it is. Beautiful. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I hope you're aware that we're doing the Messages of Hope podcast weekly now, live premieres. Well, we're live in the chat. We're pre-recording so that we can keep them going every Sunday, no matter what my schedule is. But Sunday at noon Eastern time. And I wanted to share, I put it on Facebook yesterday. We had a comment from somebody who said, from Uganda, I'm a military officer on my tour of duty following your podcast from South Sudan. It's a blessing to be here. When I shared that with Ty, he said, a Ugandan in Sudan, he must be part of a UN peacekeeping force. And he looked it up, and sure enough, there are military people from even Uganda on peacekeeping forces. So peace, I hope, is the word, oof, goosebumps there, the word of the evening tonight and moving forward, because We have to hold the light somehow. It's why we're here. And you do make a difference. I can't emphasize that enough. Anything that I'm sharing with you this evening comes from tuning in daily to higher consciousness in the form of other people's loved ones, my guides, and the higher beings who make up my team called Sanaya. It's such a blessing to sit in that energy. I hope all of you are doing some kind of practice that allows you to experience higher consciousness regularly, even if it's only 3 minutes a day using my sip of the divine or whatever practice works for you, to come to know that the greater reality is real and you are part of it, not separate from it. And that's why I'm going to spend the next few minutes and always spend the first part of these evenings sharing some of the latest stories and evidence from the spirit world to just remind us this is real. So I'll start off right away with how I start my readings by tuning into my mediumship guide, Brenda, who I always feel up here. And I say, Brenda, I'm about to do a reading. Tell me what Lynette is doing right now. Because Lynette always schedules my readings and she knows we play this game. It's my way of checking to make sure that I'm tuned in, ready to work, ready to do a reading. And just recently I tuned in and there's Brenda showing me a xylophone, a little kid's toy xylophone. I couldn't imagine Lynette playing a xylophone, but I trust Brenda. I trust spirit. And that's what I want you all to get to the point of where you don't say, oh, I'm making this up, so I'm not going to share it. That's a newbie practice. You know, a new person to mediumship will just blow it off thinking, I have to make that up. You just don't blow off what you think is your imagination. Share everything as long as it's not harmful. And you learn to trust spirit. So I text Lynette, Brenda's showing me a xylophone as the sign game for today. Well, it turns out that the night before, Lynette had been part of a little circle of kindred spirits who got together and they were tuning into spirit. And one member of the circle said, I think this is Brenda here. She's showing me a xylophone, but I'm really not sure it's Brenda. So even without Lynette saying anything to me or even saying, Brenda, maybe you'll show us, Brenda comes right into me, who was not part of that circle, shows me the xylophone, and there's the group's answer. Is that the coolest thing ever? I have to admit to you, honestly, there's this part of my human story that never fails to say, really? You mean this is real? Even though I hear it every day, even though I know it, I probably need to do a healing of that part of me, but then it might take away the joy and the fun and the awe, right? May I never grow tired of this. She says you won't. That's good. That's good. So I hope you don't get tired of it either, because I have some more for you. All righty. Let's see. Oh, this one. I have a dear friend who I've known for years. Ty and I have had dinner with her, visited her at her home in Chicagoland, and beautiful soul who was just put in hospice about 2 weeks ago with lung cancer. I've done multiple readings for her and connected her with her husband who passed, her son who passed. She was ready to join them. So when I heard she was put on hospice at home and it was okay to call, I called her. We had the most beautiful conversation about 10 days, 2 weeks ago. And she did not sound like somebody who was getting ready to pass. I thought, why is she in hospice? She sounds perfectly normal, just like herself. She didn't sound sick. She was upbeat. She was happy. And it was a beautiful conversation. So imagine my surprise. Just when was it? Friday? No, it was earlier this week. Just maybe 3 days ago, I'm walking on the beach with our dogs. Oh, it was last Friday. That's right. Because we had just gotten home and we said, let's go to the beach. Walking on the beach with the dogs. And all of a sudden, here's my friend in my ear, her voice saying, it's beautiful here. I'm so happy. I got the goosebumps just saying it to you now. And I thought, she couldn't have passed. She wasn't that close. And I said, is that you? And that's all I heard. Well, I quickly picked up my phone while we're walking. I made Ty hold the dog's leash so I could use both hands. And I texted her daughter and I told her what happened. I said, Perhaps she didn't pass and she's just getting ready, because I can't believe that she would have passed. But this was her voice. Her daughter had to check. She had left her mom's side. Her brother had left her mom's side, and the one person who was still with her had just walked in, found out she had taken her last breath minutes earlier. So what did she do? She crossed the veil, stopped by to drop in on me on the beach, and let everybody know it's beautiful here. How comforting is that for all of us? And I know many of you who aren't even practicing mediums have had drop-ins like this from loved ones. Trust that. They know when somebody's going to be able to sense them. And even if they don't sense them, they stop and drop in on us. But they can drop in on us anytime. They learn this very quickly. You know, hey, now I can see them more often than when I was in a physical form. What's really cool about these visits that I get, drop-ins from people who I really knew well, is I hear their voice exactly as it sounds. It's not objective, like it's out here. It's in my mind, but it's their voice. I would like to take a poll sometime and find out, when you think of your loved one, any loved one, maybe just somebody you just talked to 5 minutes ago here, can you hear their voice, or does it sound like your own thoughts? If I'm thinking about Ty right now and I imagine him saying something to me, it still sounds like my own thoughts. When I think about my stepdaughter, Susan, it sounds like my own thoughts until she drops in on me from spirit. And then it's her voice, like a phone call. And that's what this was like with my friend who just passed. So any of you who may hear your thoughts like your own, may hear loved ones' words like your own thoughts, if you're just thinking, what do they sound like? That's one way to know it's really them, when you hear that voice and they've recreated the frequency of the voice. That's how it works. Pretty cool. All righty. Oh, this was an amazing moment in the reading in the last month. Doing a reading for a woman, I always ask, what is your intention before a reading? It's very important, whether you are a client, a sitter, or the medium, that you have a very clear intention what we want to get out of this session. So I asked that of my client, and she said, well, it would be nice to hear from loved ones, but I'm really more concerned about a specific issue I'm dealing with. Now, see, that really helps to solidify the intention. I don't need to know what it is, but with a crystal clear intention, the results are always much better. As soon as she said, I'm dealing with an issue, boom, here's a guide shouting health at me. And I said, well, I know right away you're dealing with a health issue, so let's see what spirit will tell us about that. And this is the thing for people who are new to mediumship or psychic work even, is we may make the mistake of thinking, how do I know? Or thinking we have to figure it out. Not at all. There are guides, angels, and loved ones who know so much more than we do at this level. We turn it over to them and it just flows. And right away, I sensed this woman had cancer, but I wanted to hold off because I wanted to get some more information. And as I'm looking at her on the screen, this beautiful translucent blue ray came down from above her. We were on Zoom, and came down across her face and curved. Oh, how interesting. Exactly like the neckline of this top. That's funny. And I looked at her and I stopped talking. I said, do you see that light on the screen? She said, no. And I said, look closer. You don't see that? He said, no. And it started to get brighter and brighter. And I said, you must see this. And she looked, and suddenly she saw it. And as she saw it, it grew brighter and brighter. And I said, I'm hearing this is Archangel Michael. She and I were both thrilled. I've tuned into him multiple times in the past. And as I said that, that curving light let me know it was ending right where the cancer was. I said, you have breast cancer in that breast. And she said, yes, that's exactly the issue I'm dealing with. And I said, well, you're getting a healing right now. And it'll be interesting to see what the results were. But that light stayed and growed. And I asked her permission and shared the video with a couple of members, my assistants, and we were just blown away. The color of it, obviously not coming from the room or any reflection. I asked her, have you sat in this chair doing Zoom meetings before? Yes. Have you ever seen that before? No, it was very clearly a visit from an archangel. By the way, this coming Sunday's podcast is You Can Chat with Archangels with my special guest, Deborah Schildhouse. So you should enjoy that one. So let's see. Oh, I love this. She wrote to me later and said that after the reading, she went into her guest room and found a tea bag label. She didn't know of anybody having been in there since it was last cleaned. She had not had a cup of tea in her guest room, but you know, little tea bag labels sometimes have words on it. This had a message on it, and it said, accept the challenge you are facing. It may become your greatest gift. Wow. I wanted to give a shout out to Beth Pasikarnis, who is dealing with the challenge of leukemia. I know you're with us this evening, and all of us are with you, Beth. Beth is Wolf's stepmom, and our love and healing goes out to Mike as well, Wolf's dad, because it's just as hard as on him, not physically, but emotionally. And he's there for her, and we're all there for both of you, and sending lots of healing energy continuously your way. Thanks, everybody. So let's see. Oh, just a little aside while we're talking about evidence. We had a little issue with our motor coach last month. We spent a month in our house in Idaho. We bought a little summer home out there, and so we put the bus in storage. When we went to check on the bus, we found that we had some visitors, some very little visitors with little tails. They kind of took up residence after we left, no dogs on board, so they'll come on board. So Ty put some little traps around, and we blessed their little souls, and because we didn't really want them going with us on the rest of the trip. So we thought we got them, and we thought we got two, and well, there we were rolling down the road coming back here, and Ty loves Hershey's Kisses. I try to stay away from as many as he eats, but I went to get in the Hershey's Kisses bowl, and there was a half-eaten Hershey's Kiss with a chewed up wrapper. And I looked at that, and here's evidence that I am always thinking, how does life relate to mediumship? I see mediumship tools and teaching in everything. And I looked at that and I said, look, this is an NOE. NOE is our acronym for no other explanation. I had yet to see a mouse. They have traps these days that are completely enclosed and you never see them. You just kind of shake and you say, well, we got one. You never see it. And we never saw the mouse, but we saw the chewed up wrapper. We saw the half-eaten chocolate and the droppings, which I cleaned the entire bus with bleach so we don't get hantavirus, right? But this got me thinking about mediumship. I never saw the mice, but there was zero doubt in my mind that those mice existed now in the beautiful spirit world. And yet we don't question the existence of the mice. So why do so many people question the existence of the spirit world? We may never see a spirit, but the evidence is overwhelming that they are here. And the biggest evidence is in our heart, where we know that love never dies. So stop questioning and follow your heart. Follow the signs. Follow the evidence. Thank you, dear mice. Okay, let's see. I had a great opportunity last month while I was in London to meet a man who's hosting a conference for which I'll be on a panel next year back in England. It's kind of closed. It's just for the people who are participating to learn about consciousness and talk to each other and help the world understand more how consciousness is the ground of all reality. And he is a big researcher into consciousness. And I said to him, have you ever had a reading? And he said, no. And I looked at him, I said, we have to do a reading. And I was enjoying dinner with him and with Lynette and his wife. And I said, why don't we do a reading for both of you? So I had the pleasure of doing that reading by Zoom once I got back to the US. And it was one of those, anybody who's been a practicing medium knows that there are certain readings that put a little more pressure on us than other readings. That's the human side. Every reading is the same. When we turn it over to spirit, there is no pressure. But I will acknowledge the human thought that goes through the mind when we say, this gentleman has invited me to be a speaker at a big conference. And if we don't produce good evidence and have an excellent reading, he might question mediumship if he's never had a reading. But you just acknowledge these thoughts, acknowledge them as the human side, and know the spirit world will never let you down. And I'm just grateful to state that they really didn't. And what was cool was that because spirit world always knows what we need. He got the full gamut in a reading. He got evidence of loved ones for himself and for his wife. And he got advice from his guides. And then I went into full-blown channeling of his guides. I just dropped out of the way and they just went on and on and on with the message. And it was a phenomenal experience. But the beautiful part was just how much fun we had. His father came in right away and gave us this message. He said, how about them choppers? Referring to teeth. Both of them immediately started laughing. He said, let me tell you about that later. So I knew immediately what those of you who do this for a living and do readings for others will understand. We don't have to get every last detail sometimes when spirit tells us things. As long as the client, the sitter, understands what spirit's trying to get through, they're just giving evidence to show it's me, here I am. Then what really matters is their messages. In this case, as they told me after the reading was over, this was a huge family joke and a story they're still telling to this day about him and these front teeth. And of course, by describing his personality and other traits about him and how he passed, there was no doubt it was his father. But what was most important was the message that followed of how proud he is of his son and how he might not have expressed that while he was here. So I'm just grateful for Spirit for knowing that now he was a believer before, but now he's actually had the experience of being in the presence of Spirit firsthand like that. So beautiful. Let's see. Oh, this was a phenomenal teaching moment. Thanks to beautiful Brenda, my guide. We were playing the sign game that I explained to you earlier, and Brenda showed me Lynette playing a piano keyboard. And I thought, well, that's unusual. I know Lynette doesn't play piano. Interesting, two musical instruments with Lynette, but these were weeks apart. And I texted Lynette and I said, she shows me current event right now. So you with a piano, you playing the piano? And she said, no, but I have my fingers on a keyboard. And I said, that doesn't count. You always have your fingers on a keyboard. And she said, no, but it's actually a laptop. I'm usually using my phone or an iPad. I'm actually opened up a laptop and I'm typing on a keyboard. And I'm about to dismiss it because it was just too mundane, too ordinary. And Brenda said, clear as day, keyboard, as in piano, got you to keyboard, what she's actually doing right now, which is what we wanted. I wanted to know, what is Lynette doing right now? If she had shown me typing on a keyboard, maybe I would have said, too ordinary, give me something else. But as soon as she said keyboard got me to keyboard, it came with this knowing, that's claircognizance, that something just like that was going to happen in the reading I was about to do. So I said to Lynette, mark my words, we're going to have this word got you to that word moment in this reading because it's going to be something that I would not have thought of or understood. So I filed that away, put it aside, and began the reading. And we're bringing through this woman's son across the veil. Went through the whole reading, went about 45 minutes. I had completely forgotten that incident happened. And I said to the woman, your son just showed me him snowboarding, and he's wearing a jumpsuit. No, it was skydiving. Wait. Let me get it right here. Got to get it right. Race car driver. He's showing me race car driving in a jumpsuit, but he was too young to be a race car driver. And she shook her head and she said, no, he never drove a race car. When your client can't take something, I recommend everybody go back and ask the spirit again. Did you show that to me correctly? Did I get it correctly? Is there another way you can show that to me? Don't take a no as always a no, right? Let the spirit determine what's going on. And I said, well, your son's still showing me the race car, but he's saying it's the jumpsuit. It's the jumpsuit. And she said, well, since he died, I wanted to honor him by doing something he wanted to do, but didn't get a chance to do. So I skydived and I wore a bright orange jumpsuit. All of a sudden, I was filled with goosebumps, which is my sign of validation from spirit. And here's Brenda going ding, 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 which is her sign. You got it. And I went, jumpsuit got me to jumpsuit. And I just thought it was the most clever thing that clearly they had worked this out in advance. And she knew Suzanne's not going to believe that he would have skydived, and it would be really hard to show skydiving, but show her that bright orange jumpsuit and she'll talk about it. So this is just a key learning point for all of us. We don't have to be perfect as long as we understand what spirit is trying to get through, and we don't make things fit. I don't like to stretch things to make them fit. That was just a beautiful, beautiful moment. And now before we move on to the main teaching, I want to share that in London, I had what I feel is one of the funniest moments in my entire mediumship experience. While teaching this class of 265 people, I was teaching personal mediumship plus for 2 days. And we don't do readings for each other in this class, as I mentioned earlier. You can join me for that class at the beginning of January in Savannah. But I said to Spirit on day 2 in my morning meditation, look, I would love to bring through a spirit. I know I don't do gallery readings, but if you want me to bring through a spirit and there's somebody you have lined up for me to bring through, take my breath away. Because I get teaching and I get focused and I don't notice if there's a spirit trying to get my attention. So that's how I get them to get my attention. Take my breath away. So we're right near the end of the whole class, the second day, and I was answering a question from the audience, and all of a sudden, I couldn't catch my breath. And I looked to the side and I said, excuse me, we have a spirit here who wants to be heard from. And it was this really funny man. I said, there's a man here who was a real character. He's telling me he's a father. He's a father, and you'd recognize him that way. A real character, liked to joke around, liked to be the center of attention, walked with a cane, and he's drawing my attention to suspenders. This is an item of clothing you would know this man for. He's showing me he always wore those suspenders, and you would know this is the dad that I'm talking about. And I look around, and anybody who's been to a gallery reading, you wait now for someone in the audience to raise their hand. We say, who can take this? Nobody raises their hand. 265 people, nobody recognizes this man. So I tuned in. I know he's right here. I said, well, give me something else. So he told me something else, and I said, but he's really emphasizing these suspenders. I have a dad here in suspenders. Nobody can take this. Well, I looked down, and Lynette is right in the front row. She went with me to London, and she's sitting next to an executive from Hay House who attended the whole weekend. My new book is coming out from Hay House, and I said, why don't you come see what my classes are like? So she's a lovely woman. Amy's sitting right there beside Lynette, and Lynette's going like this, like, hey, look at Amy. And Amy's making a motion like she's pulling on suspenders, and I'm in the middle of making this connection with this man, and I said, what? And she said, in British, we call them braces. And I said, what, suspenders? And I said, oh, she says we call them braces. The audience cracked up. I said, so we have a man here who wore braces. Can anybody take this? And immediately a hand goes up in the back of the room. I thought everybody laughed because it's just one of those language things, English, British English versus American English, suspenders versus braces. The woman took it in the back. She said, yeah, I know who this is. She confirmed everything, and he gave a beautiful message for the family. So then the class ended about half an hour later. We were walking back to the flat, the apartment that we rented, Lynette and I, and 2 friends who had attended the class, mediums themselves. Britta Grubin, who some of you may have had a reading with, and Sarah Deverell, a wonderful British medium who's just a delightful woman. We invited them to come back with us and have dinner back at the flat. So the four of us are walking back, and they tell me that Britta and Sarah, when I'm bringing this man through from spirit, Sarah, who's British, was having a fit. She turned to Britta and she said, I can't believe Suzanne is so calm. She's such a professional. How is she keeping us straight? Says she's bringing this man through. And Britta was like, well, what? It's just a regular reading, right? And she said, but nobody is going to take this. And Britta didn't understand why until, okay, here's the punchline. Are you ready? In Britain, suspenders is a garter belt. So here's Britta saying, here's Sarah saying, nobody's going to raise their hand for, I've got a dad here in a garter belt. And the British, I love you all, the stiff upper lip, nobody was going to laugh. When I said, this dad is standing here in suspenders, nobody laughed. Until here's Amy from Hay House going, we call them braces. I hope you all are laughing with me. I can't hear you all on this Zoom meeting, but it was one of those moments. And the father told me there were so many people in the audience that were there because they were in grief for the loved one who had passed. And they wanted to end the evening and the whole 2 days on a high note, and yet still show us that spirit was there. That was a total setup from spirit. Of all the things any spirit could have shown me, they choose that knowing we're going to have that little language moment there, which was just so perfect. So I hope you enjoy that and know how the spirit world has our back and sets us up all the time. All righty. I had some more evidence, but I am going to skip right over it. The guides are telling me to share it next month because we have so much teaching that I want to get onto. But we always do promise to share some answers from spirit. So Bev, why don't we do 2 or 3 questions that people might have typed in? Oh, that's a good one right there.
Okay.
Yep.
Ready?
Ready.
Here's one from Ed. What does it mean when a soul in spirit says of a living person that they are an old soul?
Okay, an old soul. This is a language thing. Again, the soul is timeless, but we use our language to say that soul has had more incarnations than another, or is bringing more of the energy from other incarnations into this one, so that lessons learned are expressed here. So an old soul is somebody who really gets that we are here to be the presence of love. They're not going to be as judgmental as a soul that came here to practice, not judging others. So it gets triggered more often with things like that. So many times children who pass as a child, young people in their 20s who pass, people just remember them for their light, and they say, I knew from the beginning they were an old soul. That does not mean if your child is an old soul that they're going to pass early. Please don't take it that way. However, many people come and leave their mark, and they learn the lessons that they want to work on and practice here. Not like it's a punishment, but more of, hey, got to work on that. I'm ready to go across the veil. And they just didn't need to stick around as long. So that's what we mean. Okay.
Thank you. Claudia asked, will you please speak to this bit of confusion? I hear that on the other side, we are energy or light, and we recognize each other by that frequency. So if a medium says something like a loved one is going to pick you up in a horse and carriage, how is that going to happen? A physical, they appear in a physical way, not just light and frequency.
Well, the example confuses me a bit, but I believe that perhaps the medium said to the client, when you pass, your loved one's going to pick you up.
Right. Yeah.
That's because across the veil, we create and project whatever experience we want. And across the veil, as this is a perfect setup, so I'll just take the two questions, Bev. It leads right into what I was going to talk about next, that their world is solid to them. So they have the intention and the desire to pick up their loved one in a horse and carriage, and it manifests instantly. And the loved one crosses the veil, and it feels very solid, very real to them. Here in this world, we manifest, but not instantly. We are in the realm of time and space where we have to take specific actions that take time until we build or buy that horse and carriage. But instantaneously across the veil, created with information and energy. Is it real? Wait till you hear the answer to what we were just going to get to next. I love how that works. All right, so thanks for the question. So I was in the middle of connecting a woman with her daughter across the veil. That's who she wanted to hear from. That was her intention going into it. She told me that. But her mother across the veil dropped in on us anyway. Always remain open to whoever wants to show up. And it was so interesting how when she stepped in, the very first thing her mother did, and I just knew it was a mother, just knew it claircognizantly, the mother stepped up and blew with her mouth a smoke ring that floated out. And I knew she was sending a smoke ring to her daughter. What an unusual way to come in, but I just love how clever spirit is. I described that, and I said, as she's doing that, she shows me her dislike of cigarettes. And my client said, well, no wonder. She was a big smoker and died of lung cancer because of all of her smoking. Then she said, but I smell cigarettes at the strangest times when there's no one around. So one of the questions I wanted answered in this reading was, Mom, is that you giving me the cigarette scent? Look how Mom came in. That woman never shared with me her question. Mom knew about it, and she answered it in such a meaningful way. The very first thing she does is blow a smoke ring at her daughter. I just love how clever and creative the spirit world is. You know, that's not me reading her mind and knowing she wants to have an answer to that question. That's Mom giving her the answer. So what was really cool is the very next day in meditation, my guide Sanaya addressed the question, is the smoke really in the room when her daughter smells it? If you've smelled roses or a perfume that a loved one wore, does that mean your loved one stepped into the room wearing that perfume from across the veil? Does that mean they brought a rose into the room? I'm going to actually read to you verbatim what the guide said in answer to that. You wish to understand how it works, how a soul can be in the room with you and outside it at the same time. Do not cling to the "this world is real" phenomenon. The physical is relative. Whilst you are in it, all will seem solid. All will seem to be reality. Reality is fluid. What you call reality is caused by sensations, thoughts, and feelings arising only one place, in awareness. I go into this in big detail in the book, The Awakened Way, about what really is reality. Sensations, thoughts, and feelings arising in awareness. We also teach this in my Personal Mediumship Plus class. Sanaya continued, a mother can blow smoke rings at her daughter to make a point. Her actions arise as an experience within your mind, just as I experience that in my mind as a visual that you perceive as an image. They arose in her daughter's mind as a sensation that she perceived as a smell. A loved one appears in the room as an apparition that is perceived where? In awareness. And awareness is not confined here inside the skull, everybody. Awareness is you as a soul. It's your true nature to be the presence of consciousness, of awareness. So in the room and not in the room. Hang on a second. Makes sense only from within the room. And they wanted me to repeat this. In the room and not in the room makes sense only from within the room. There is only one room here. Awareness, being. Maintain awareness of simply being. This awareness, being, and you will know that all beings are here with you now. Which one you place your attention on is the one you perceive. It matters not whether this is here in the room with you or here in awareness. All are here, for there is nowhere else to be. That may take you a little while to wrap your heads around, but your soul knows this is truth. We're having this human experience as souls because we decided to put our focus on this reality, which is very real. But really, everything boils down to thoughts that we have, visuals that we have, sensations, all arising in awareness. Wow. And then they ended with, now interact clearly with others for the sole purpose of bringing more love and awareness to the fact that life is the entire game. Okay. And life is an acronym for love in full expression. That's why we're here, and that's why we exist across the veil. We are love expressing itself as you and me and all that is. All righty. Before we get on to the teaching about the brain, I want to bring in Tammy Anderson. Some of you may have seen the podcast with Tammy Lee Anderson. You can watch it later if you didn't watch it yet. She was a student of mine and is now a professional medium. She has a lot of other surprises in that podcast. But in the trailer that we made for that podcast, she made a statement. She told about how she was somewhat abducted, not like the psychic Annette Brickla who was abducted, but got in a car with somebody. She hitched a ride and he took her down a dark road and she knew this was not good. And she talked about having this moment where she said she had a realization, he can't hurt me because I'm already dead. And a lot of people question that. It didn't make sense, but it made perfect sense to me. She says she could have worded it a little differently. So I wanted to bring her in tonight to word that differently and explain to you what realization came to her when she was in this state of fear that her knees were literally knocking together, knew she could end up dead or raped alongside the road, and suddenly found peace. Tammy, why don't you just start talking and you'll come on the screen.
Okay. So, can you hear
You're
me?
going to have to talk nice and loud because you're really soft.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, speak even louder and you'll be doing
Okay.
good.
Okay. So, I think the realization was that, at that moment, I just let go of the attachment to my physical body. And once I did that, then I, had power beyond anything you can imagine. So, and I'm not sure how you want me to explain this, but I wasn't dead, but I let go of the physical, it was something that just happened. I let go of my attachment to my physical body. And once that happened, I had a lot of power.
So have you reached the point now where you can hold on to that feeling of when you say that basically isn't it the old statement that when you can die daily to the story of you and realize there's more to you than this story, then all fear goes away?
Absolutely. I didn't just learn this driving down that road. I've spent a lifetime. I mean, I had a rough upbringing, and I learned that I had a lot of power when I just say, let's go for it. I gave it all up, and I was a pain in somebody's side because of that, because I knew how much power I had when I just said, let's go. And
that's a different kind of power than the kind of power that I'm stronger than you, right? This is a spiritual power. Why don't you address that for a second?
It's a spiritual power. It's not a physical power. It's hard to hurt somebody that knows that you can't hurt them.
Mm.
There's nothing, you cannot touch me. I mean, you can kill my physical body. And it's the same as I told the story of the monk who said, you can run me through your sword and I won't even blink, because he was not going to move. He was so present in his spiritual strength. And so, yes, I mean, I didn't find this going down that road, but I embodied it for sure.
Beautiful. And then in you and I sharing afterwards, could you tell us the story too that you learned about your lesson with attachment regarding a camera that you really liked?
This was when I was in Europe. I was in France, and I love taking pictures. And I was taking it was a 35 millimeter camera I got as a gift. And I love taking pictures with it. And so I was very protective. I didn't want to lose this camera. And I was holding on to it tight. But I did have a worry, that I was always guarding that camera because I didn't want to get taken. Well, on New Year's Eve, I was in the subway in France. And these guys are experts at their craft of stealing stuff. And they wait till the train just starts to slow down, and they lean into you. And so they clipped it off my shoulder. I mean, I left the strap, but I had the camera just taken that fast. Well, I chased these guys, and I ended up in a really bad place in France, in a really dark place. And I thought, you're going to lose more than your camera if you don't let go of this. So I turned around and went back to the train. And then I was upset for several days about this camera because I really enjoyed it. And then I realized that now I don't have to worry about my camera. It's gone. And so that attachment to it, once I realized that, it was gone and I don't have to worry about it, there was a freedom that I found. There was a freedom, and it's the idea I think I shared with you about the cup. The cup's already broken. If you know the cup's already broken, you can enjoy the cup because it's something you're using, but it will eventually be broken. We will lose our life, the physical life, but we can enjoy our physical life until the day that we give it up, and not worry about when I'll die or what illness I have. It's part of the trip, but that attachment is what keeps us in fear, I believe. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Tammy, for sharing that with us. I hope you all will go on my podcast channel and search for the episode with Tammy Lee Anderson, because it is so full of wisdom like that. And it's really one of the favorites out there right now. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All righty. Okay, everybody. So we're going to move on now. I want to share with you this teaching that I shared on the Alaska cruise. And by the way, the next cruise, every cruise, I'm sure Spirit will give me new teaching and new things to share, but always coming back to the awakened way. It's always going to be about how can we live a consciously connected, divinely guided life. And I'm going to bring in even more guided meditations like the one we're going to experience here this evening, and answer more questions with Sanaya answering the questions, even personal questions moving forward. So we're going to have a great time with that. But this teaching about how our left and right hemispheres of the brain can both impede our mediumship and help our mediumship came to me when I was snagged by a book on how the brain operates last summer, and just dove in like a graduate student to everything I could learn about the brain, because I could see the connection with mediumship. And the brain is a filter of consciousness. If it weren't for this brain, we would be so much more aware of loved ones in spirit who are around us. So I love learning about the brain, and that's why I want to share this with you this evening. You want to connect with your loved ones? I want to show you why the brain gets in the way and how it does, but also that it's not your enemy. So I'm going to share my screen. I have slides that go with this. I'm going to go a little fast here because I taught this earlier today to a group from the Shift Network, and it took me a full hour, and we don't have that much time because I want to lead the meditation for peace. But I'm asking Spirit to guide me, so we do this just right. Just at the right speed, not too fast, not too slow, right? Alrighty, so here we go. So who is it we're dealing with in mediumship? Who is it that we're really interacting with? It's funny, my mentor, Mavis Batilla, made this point so clear. We're not tuning into energy, we're tuning into people. These are actually still people across the veil. We don't lose our sense of self, our sense of individuality across the veil, even though we do come to know that we are much more connected to each other than we're aware of. So the question is, where is the self? Many people, when I ask this question in a class, they point to the body, but the self is not contained within and trapped by the body. The self, yourself, is this energetic field that is eternal, but the brain gives us a sense of being a separate, totally independent self, and that is not true. Scientists have mapped out almost every function that the brain performs, and yet they cannot find a self in the brain because it is not located in one spot. The self is pieces of a puzzle, energetic parts that combine, and we say, this is me as compared to that is you. But there is no one self, and therefore, when the body dies and the brain no longer works, your self does not die because it doesn't exist as a certain aspect of the brain. So that's really important. Thinking. We think that the brain is solely responsible for thinking. And in mediumship, I want any medium out there to catch themselves if you say to your client, well, I think such and such, and stop yourself and say, wait, that's the left hemisphere of my brain doing what it does best, thinking, rationalizing, using logic. We want to use some logic in a reading, but we want to go for knowing. So it's really helpful to know which parts of the brain do what. But understand that ego, when we talk about that, is an image of who we think we are, and it's created by the left brain, especially that part that makes us feel separate from each other and judge each other. So the two sides of the brain, the left hemisphere and the right side, many of you are probably familiar with this. I've been teaching this from day one, the different ways that the two hemispheres work. They have different tasks, but we're going to dive into it a little bit more deeply here briefly. It is really like having two separate minds. They are that different, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. And scientists know this from doing split brain studies. There is a band of tissue in between the two hemispheres called the corpus callosum. It allows information to pass back and forth between the two hemispheres. But there have been people, since neuroscientists have been studying the brain, who had that corpus callosum cut so that there is no communication between the two hemispheres. And yet these people still function in this world. So imagine, this is a neuroscientist's dream to be able to isolate the two hemispheres. And what to me as a medium was most fascinating is the way the left hemisphere makes up stories, just because that's what it does. It makes up excuses and rationales even when they're not based on external reality. One case in point was one person who they studied, and they held up a word so that whichever eye perceived it, and I don't want to get it wrong, only the right hemisphere saw the word. And the word was walk. And so that person being experimented upon just stood up and started walking. And when they asked on a piece of paper, the left hemisphere of the brain only could see the question, why are you walking? The left brain said, well, I'm going home to get a Coke, which was ridiculous because they're in an investigative medical setting here. They don't need a Coke and they're not going home. The left brain just pulled it out of some data that's randomly in its mind that had nothing to do with the real reason that person was walking, because they read the command walk on a piece of paper. So right there, that's just one example of many that I read, all fascinating, how one of the things that your logical left brain does is take little pieces together and create stories. To me, as a medium, that puts me on alert. We'll talk more about that, but here are some more of the different functions of each side. Making stories, there it is. Interpreting situations. Your left brain's really good at that. Pattern recognition and filling in the blanks when you only have a couple pieces of the pattern, so that it creates a reality that may not even be there. I love looking at pictures that show you, this is what your left brain sees, but this is what's really on the paper. It's really good at language, using words. As a language major, I know it's very left brain. As the aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, I use my left brain all the time for putting things in little boxes. Categorization, very left brain. Many of you are also very left brain. For some reason, we left brain people tend to congregate together here in the Awaken Way community. But then we have Lynette, who has admittedly said she has no left brain. So maybe she had that split brain operation. She knows I'm teasing. We love her right brain side. If you could hear her giggling right now, I can see her laughing off screen. Right brain, though, finding meaning in things. So, you just love to find the deeper meaning in life, understanding big picture ideas. Many of you left brain people are starting to lean this way now, aren't you? And it's why you're joining us, because we're trying to find that perfect balance between honoring the left brain, but also expressing creativity. How many of you have just started painting, giving up your left brain career or starting to express your creativity in other ways? Now you're bringing your right brain back online. Any of these activities is going to help your mediumship connecting across the veil, and we'll tell you why as we go along. Right brain, all about experiencing emotions. Many people say, why are there so few men in your classes and at your webinars? It's because stereotyping here, but typically men are more accustomed to focusing on left brain functions. Right brain experiencing emotions, not something culturally as acceptable as we would love it to be for men to feel and experience their emotions. Those who do have a more balanced life, which is a beautiful thing. Spatial processing. So there you go. Some of the tasks of the two hemispheres of the brain. All these tasks on the left side for the left brain create this sense of self, categorizing, using language and patterns to say, I am this. This is who I am. These are the roles I'm playing. This makes me different from you. These are the categories that I belong in. Whereas the right side knows only being, doesn't need categories, just is. And it's a beautiful feeling when we can set those left brain traits aside and simply be. So if some of the things I said earlier about is the person really in the room didn't make sense to you, that's because your left brain's trying to figure that out. Pattern recognition, categorization, this doesn't make sense to me. But the right brain is saying, oh yes, I know what it's like to just be. So stick with us, month after month, and these right brain concepts will make more and more sense to you, and your connection across the veil will increase. Meanwhile, left brain, survival techniques, practices come from the left brain. And it's because the left brain makes us feel so separate that we're focused on tribalism, our group, and innate survival. But when we bring the right brain in, then I love the picture, right? The cave guy looking at the big city out there. We need to catch up. We need to bring more of these feelings and emotions and cooperation and unity consciousness into our world. Look around. Couldn't we use a little bit of that? Another thing about the left brain is it is programmed to make you want and need more, no matter what. Right brain says, like Tammy, no attachments. Left brain says, good, got that, checking the block. What's next? I want more. So even in mediumship, you can give a great reading. It can be full of evidence, and yet you want more. You're not satisfied. That's the left brain. I hope you're enjoying this. I find this all fascinating. And there's that story function. We take pieces of a puzzle, we build stories, we create stories, even if they're not true. Who doesn't love a good story? Unfortunately, our human stories are full of, I have to do this, he should do that, I need to do that. All of these belief systems, that's what BS stands for, guys. That's all left brain stuff. So once you become aware that the left brain is running the program here, you catch yourself being critical, judgmental, categorizing everybody, feeling separate. Just remember that phrase. It's the program. It's the left brain. You've been operating that way because that's the patterns, the neurological patterns that you've been running, but you can repattern the way you see the world. That, to me, is the most promising thing of all of this. So the thing is, this is where I want mediums to be wary. How can we be sure in a reading that we're not making a story from the pieces of the puzzle that we get from those in spirit world? Well, it's from the evidence. And this is why we need our clients to be honest with us and give us feedback every once in a while. Ideally, we'll learn through practice to absolutely know beyond a doubt there is a spirit here. I can feel their personality. They're being clever. They're being creative, just like I shared with you earlier, and the evidence backs it up. But I had the experience 10 years ago, practicing gallery readings, brought through a spirit girl, all kinds of evidence and stories, and nobody could take her. I reached out to a former mentor, Anne Giesemann, who has now passed. And she said, Suzanne, that girl was not there. You made a complete story up. I was terrified of doing that again. You see, I couldn't see the spirit. I was going on feel. And that's when I said to myself, I need to be able to feel your personality, spirits. Turn it up. Give me really good evidence. And know that the left brain can make up stories, which is why one of the most common questions we get from people is, how do I know this isn't my imagination? From the evidence, from the awareness of their presence, and from that knowing this is them. Also, from the uniqueness of things that you would not have thought of yourself. Your stories from the left brain come from your own experiences. When spirit gives you something that you have not experienced or would not have thought of, that's another way we know it's not our imagination. But be aware of that storytelling function and state things objectively. Like the time I had a father in spirit show me taking my client as a young girl into a dark closet. That's what this slide is all about. I reported that objectively. My left brain is building this story. Oh my goodness, he abused her in that closet. But I didn't say that, and I'm grateful that I didn't, because it came with an uplifting feeling, which didn't make sense until she explained to me, oh, that's a beautiful memory. My dad used to take me into his dark room and let me watch him develop the photos that he took. So, right brain, definitely our friend in connecting across the veil. It's the part where we just know this is a mother. This is your mother. I don't even have to get any evidence from her. I can feel her, and she has that motherly feel. What does a mother feel like? I don't know. I just know. That comes from the right brain, and that right brain is where we process intuition, which is that gut feeling. This is a picture of vibration. Flowing left to right is all consciousness flowing in the field of consciousness. And these three are whirlpools, individual fields of consciousness. There's a little person inside each one of them. Each one of us flowing and blending and merging together. Because we're not separate completely, we are fields of information flowing together. We pick up on sensations, thoughts, and feelings from others in the field, and we get this knowing through the solar plexus and the heart, not the brain. And the right brain, having the big picture, just knows what information we're supposed to pick up on. We call that intuition. And when we call it women's intuition, it's only because women are more attuned to the bigger picture, the emotions, the feelings, and we've learned to honor that gut feeling, but we all have it. So it's not women's intuition, it's just plain knowing that is processed in the right brain. So the right brain does sense information that isn't available to the left brain, that comes in from the field intuitively. The result is the left brain, because it's not processing that visual, words, audible language, it just dismisses intuition. So when you say, oh, I'm not going to pay attention to that, you're missing out on a lot of the world that's right here for you to use. This is a picture of my friend and colleague, Marjorie Woolacott. She's been on my podcast, so you can find that in the archives. She wrote this book, Infinite Awareness, about her awakening. She is a neuroscientist who had a spiritually transformative experience that let her know everything is consciousness. Everything comes from the one field of awareness. I reached out to her with questions about the brain, and she introduced me to a phenomenon that all of us have going on in our brain that was really eye-opening, and it's called the default mode network. I'd heard in the past that for human beings, ego is the default mode. We can want to have no attachments to things. We can want to not fear death. But there is this network of pathways of how the brain responds to stimuli that is a default mode. And it's not located in just one hemisphere. It goes back and forth, gives us that sense of self, and that's why ego is the default mode. But it's this program that's running over and over in your brain, and it's your default mode. But happily, you're not stuck with it. There are ways to go beyond the default mode and get more into the right brain. But this default mode network, as you can see here on the slide, it's the one that keeps your attention on self-referential narrative. That means the story of me. It keeps your focus on how awesome you are from patterns that you've been experiencing your whole life. It also restricts your sense of presence by constantly drawing you outward. That's why it's so hard to maintain presence and be aware. But with training, you can overcome that and be more aware and have more spacious awareness and notice when Spirit's talking to you moment by moment. You're overriding the default mode network and making new patterns in your brain. The default mode network that all of us have operating, a little bit different in every one of us, but has these things in common, confines awareness just to everyday life. So it's not going to be looking at big picture. It's not going to be worried about peace on earth. It's your everyday life. So can you see how the default mode network is helpful, but can get in the way of connecting with higher consciousness, with your own higher self? So it's blocking our awareness of our interconnectedness. This is why it's important, whether you're a medium, whether you connect with loved ones across the veil at all. How about right here, right now? This network that's at work in us explains why we don't have peace on earth. It's the program. We're hardwired this way. It takes effort to overcome it. But at the same time, what do they say? You know, God doesn't create junk. There's a reason for this. By having this default mode network, we do work harder at awakening through trial and error. If the default mode is ego, then we learn from our mistakes. We learn from pain. We don't want to suffer anymore, and we grow by making choices that are beyond the default mode network. I really hope at some point in the next week, you'll go out and watch the TED Talk by this woman, Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, Boltetayllor. We'll put a link in the description to this video when you get it. She's a neuroscientist herself who had a stroke. Her left hemisphere of the brain went offline as she had a brain bleed on that side of the brain. As a neuroscientist, she knew what was happening as it was happening. She watched the loss of one capability after another as it happened. As she was reaching for a phone to call for help, she lost the boundaries between her hand and the wall. Everything flowed into everything else. There was no me and the wall and the room and the furniture. Everything was just being. Everything was consciousness, but that doesn't help you make a phone call. So you can see how the left brain is necessary. She had enough faculties left to notice a card of a colleague laying beside the phone. She could pick up the phone with a little fumbling. This is all told in her book. My Stroke of Insight is the title of the book. She was able to match the pattern of a number on the card with the number on the dial of the phone and punched out the numbers. But by this time, she'd lost the ability to speak because that's a left brain function. Luckily, her colleague picked up the phone, heard her muttering or garbled language through the phone, knew it was her, knew she was in trouble, and called an ambulance. By the time she got to the hospital, she was just back to the baby. Babies who have no function, right? She couldn't speak, she couldn't walk, but she was aware, and she was aware she was in trouble. They were able to stop the brain bleed. She has regained all function, but is transformed spiritually as a result. Why? Because she experienced life through the right brain only. Got rid of categories, got rid of judging, and experienced total oneness. You see how the brain blocks us from that, but we can learn to have moments of right brain more than left brain. Meditation is what does it for us. Meditation cuts out the external world, allows us to experience the spaciousness of pure being and come to understand I am more than this brain, more than this body. I hope that many of you, I can hear you having aha moments. That's why we meditate? Yes, to quiet the left brain and activate more of the right brain's functions, which we've already described why they're so helpful. So we reduce the default mode network's hold on us, and the sense of ego dissolves. Imagine we can do that now with meditation. Not as much as when we leave the body. Then, without that left brain, the gig is up. We remember who we really are. So when you override the default mode network, when you activate the right brain, you have a sense of unity and interconnectedness. And this is why we become so loving. This is why I can't help but love all of you. I have felt that unity. I sit in that oneness daily. Are you feeling it? Now you know what to do. Sip of the divine every day. Just 3 minutes of that will help result in a sense of unity and interconnectedness by bringing the right brain back online. And of course, that's going to increase your ability to connect across the veil. So just remember that. It's the program, but you're not completely stuck with it. We love the left brain. It does a great job. It is beautifully designed, but it is also a filter of consciousness. So what happens when we no longer have the brain? What do you think the spirit world is experiencing? Why did they say to me, my eyes have been opened? Because they're no longer categorizing, judging, criticizing. They feel and experience the oneness. And this is why they're no longer judging you. They don't judge each other when we cross the veil. These are left brain programs. And without that brain anymore, there is this awareness. I am this. Love in full expression. I was it all along, but the brain was a filter. Now the gig's up for all of us. Once you really get to know this and work with the brain and work around the brain while we're here, buckle your seatbelt. Yeah. So you are awareness. You are aware and you are here simply being the expression of love. Everything else is story. The senses will absolutely fool you. Remember how I told you the left brain fills in the blank? Here's an example. Ty and I went for a bike ride in Texas on our travels this summer. Out in farm country, as you can see, here was one of the local residents. I was glad he was on the other side of the fence. So I wondered what other farm animals we would see. And off in the distance was this little guy. Wasn't quite sure what he was, so we got up close. Oh my gosh. Can you see? I'm going to go back one slide. looks like a sheep or a calf. I don't know what it was, but I was sure that was an animal. We rode by, and again, as I am always thinking, how can I teach mediumship more clearly? We got like a couple yards past, and I said, Ty, stop. I have to take a picture of something that just happened to me. And we had to back up so I could take this picture. That was this little thing right there. What happened there? The left brain told a story. It took little pieces of the puzzle. It allowed my senses, the objective visuals coming in my eyes, to say that's an animal, till I got up close and saw the rest of the story. So just be aware of the programs that are running. Reality is not necessarily what our senses are telling us. We are so much more. There's so much going on. I think today's Daily Way message talked about not realizing what is real. What is real is anything that arises in consciousness. Experience is happening all the time, and your experiences are very real. Do they teach you? Are they helpful? And are they healing? That's the question we should be asking. If you're giving a message to somebody from a connection across the veil, is it real? I certainly hope so. Is it healing? That's the point. The evidence helps us here in this reality. Those across the veil just want us to know through the right brain. Just know and not think. We are right here. But that brain is a filter, and every one of us is wearing filters with different lenses based on our experience, our culture, our gender, all of it are filters. And the left brain builds stories based on that. But once you remember it's the program, now you can work around it. All right? So realize that you are both the experiencer of this reality and the witness at the level of the higher self, the soul. And you can shift and learn to shift back and forth. With awareness, find the balance. That's the goal. Yeah, if you're at work, if you're in a situation that needs logic and analyzing, you want to turn up that right brain. But if you want to connect with a loved one, you want to activate the right brain and bring in more wisdom. That's why anytime you all ask questions of me, I shift to the guides. That's where the wisdom comes, and they speak to me through the right brain. So you always have a choice, door number 1 or door number 2, left hemisphere or right hemisphere, human side or soul side, or both. But be aware you have a choice. You're not stuck in the default mode. The good news is you're not stuck because of this concept that is now very real called neuroplasticity. You have the way that the neurons are used to firing in your brain, those networks. There are multiple networks in the brain. We've just focused on one. But through retraining the brain, you can create new patterns. So the Bible says, be as the little child. Go back to trusting, knowing, relying on that gut feeling. Notice when you're categorizing and judging and say, it's the program. Little babies love everyone. They see only oneness. There's no difference between where they end and you begin. We can do that and be that now. I love this quote from Rumi. Silence is the language of God. All else is poor translation. Words get in the way. We don't need words when we feel that oneness in the silence. So meditation is the way to activate the right brain, to work around and bypass the filters. Very quickly here. Where does the mind go when we let it go wherever we want? It goes to the default network, right? But with focus and intention, we can focus on right brain functions of simply being and knowing, who am I? And this is a beautiful thing because, as it says here, disruption in the default mode enables awareness of subtler perceptions that are normally filtered out. And what is the way your loved ones from across the veil talk to you? Through very subtle perceptions. You want to notice their presence, you need to disrupt the default mode. And we do that through meditative practices. and practices of presence. You don't have to sit and say Om for 6 hours a day. You can practice presence just by going for a walk, by doing the dishes, many ways. So remember to breathe throughout the day, to practice your aha moments, the sip of the divine, and know that that is having an effect in balancing the two hemispheres of the brain. Researchers have shown that the default mode networks were deactivated for advanced meditators compared to those who had not been meditating regularly. And I'm a proof positive of that. Here's me being researched upon at the Institute of Noetic Sciences with Dr. Dean Radin, a very well-known scientist, plugging me into his computer. And I decided on my own to see if I could drop into the alpha brainwave state that's ideal for meditation. I didn't tell him I was doing it. I just took a deep breath with the intention to drop into alpha, and suddenly he turned a computer towards me to show me the screen, and he said, "Are you an experienced meditator?" And I laughed and I said, "Why do you ask?" And he said, "Because we haven't even started, and you're kicking out some really coherent alpha waves." Friends, that's from training and intention and commitment. I'm not special. My brain, I was going to say it works just like everybody else's, but my husband might disagree. But it's from the commitment to seeing how clear we can open up that connection. And clearly I got my ego out of the way to put this picture on there because that's pretty goofy looking. But it's just from living the awakened way, educating yourself about things like this, how the brain gets in the way, then seeking the personal experience yourself through expanded states of awareness, non-ordinary states of awareness, and engaging higher consciousness for yourself. That's how to live a divinely guided life. But understand, meditation is not just relaxation. I went back to my friend Marjorie, the neuroscientist, Dr. Wollicott, and I said, "Tell me the difference between when we get relaxed with alcohol versus when we relax with meditation." Fascinating things she shared with me. When you drink alcohol, your networks that help you focus are reduced. You don't have as much focus. So that's why you have reduced inhibitions and may end up dancing on tables, right? When you meditate, however, with the intention to maintain a single focus, perhaps on the breath, perhaps on, I want to hear from my loved one. That's my sole focus over and over. Where are you? I'm here to sense you. Then the result is you actually activate other networks in your brain besides the default mode network, the actual attention networks, and you're able to notice the subtle vibrations of spirit. I love this. I call it 21st century spirituality, bringing the science in to the spiritual here. Now do you see why we emphasize meditation so much? Not only that, the fringe benefit is your happiness. I'm going to wrap this up with a really big thing I learned that just absolutely fascinated me. And it's called the happiness set point. We all have one. You may have a set point with your weight. You'll always come back to that, and you can reset your set point lower if you need to. But you have a happiness set point, and you can look around and people that are always happy no matter what. I just interviewed Suzanne Ross, and she said growing up, her parents called her Susie Sunshine, right? She definitely had a high happiness set point. And then there are other people that you might call them a gloomy Gus because they're just not happy no matter what. And that could just be the way they're programmed. However, no matter what your happiness set point is, no doubt about it, you win the lottery, you're going to be happier for a while. And then an interesting thing they've noticed, even if you now have millions of dollars and have that home and the fancy car, you will come back down to your happiness set point. It loses its luster. Conversely, very interesting and hopeful for all of us, perhaps someone you love dearly dies. And I know that's happened to everybody here. And you know what that grief feels like. And you are not happy. And that could last a long time. But happily, because of this happiness set point, over time, most people will come right back to that happiness set point. Unless you don't use the kind of tools that we teach you here. Learning that there's a greater reality helps us come back to our happiness set point more quickly, which is what those across the veil hope for us more than anything, right? But here's the good news. Meditation raises your happiness set point permanently. I'm going to say that again. The happiness set point will stay the same throughout your life, except for two things that you can do to raise it. One is meditation. You will be happier as a result of regular meditation. Why do you think that is? Because you get to feel who you really are and celebrate our interconnectedness and know I am love in full expression. And like it said on that slide, you are so very loved. And the second way you can raise your happiness set point, service to others. So if you're not feeling happy or feeling dissatisfied with life, find a way to connect and serve others. Many people who retire think it's wonderful for a while, all this freedom. And then suddenly they find a lack of purpose. You know, what is my purpose in life? It doesn't have to be some big thing. Find a way to serve others, and your happiness set point will go up. So, wow, how was that? Good stuff, huh? Yay. Whew, I need to take a breath. Bev, is there anything we need to announce so I can just breathe for a minute before we go into the guided meditation?
Just an emphasis again on the wonderful events. Go to the homepage because we've got the channeling for charity in December, the 2 live events in Savannah in January, the cruise next September.
And the 8-week class, all that good stuff. But mostly number one, first up, channeling for charity, talk about service to others. So that's going to feel really good. And we're going to have somebody from Care Camps come in to accept our check. We don't tell anybody the final amount, and it's a good one already, but we want more, more, more. There's the left brain. See, left brain's not always a bad thing. We'll help those kids. All right. So beautiful timing there. I hope you all enjoyed that. And the beautiful thing is that you'll have a recording so that you can go back and listen to that again, because I did do it quickly. So we are going to do a guided meditation. Always when we meditate, it's a great idea to set an intention. And our intention is to find and experience peace and then to send it out to our world. And so I would ask you to set down your phone if you're holding it, set aside anything that you have that's distracting your attention, and give your full presence to this experience with gratitude to the spirit world. And again, I'm not sure how it's going to go because we're asking the spirit world to guide us. And I thank Sanaya for stepping in to do that. So with that intention, allow your eyes to close. You can be sitting up or lying down. A straight spine is always good to allow the energy to flow through you. So picture a shaft of white light that comes from above, goes through your body and down, grounding you in the center of the earth. And we'll begin to slow down our brain waves even more with the breath. So imagine that you're breathing in energy from below, from Mother Earth, and pull it up into your heart, nice and slowly. Exhale now, even longer than you just took to inhale. Exhaling nice and slowly and relaxing fully as you do so. Let's do another deep breath, but this time Pull in energy from above, from the cosmos. Higher consciousness energy that comes down from above in that shaft of light. Pull it into the heart area and exhale. Again, longer than you inhaled, releasing any tension that you have in the body. Just scan the body and just let it go. Breathing in from above and below now, equally balanced feminine and masculine energies. Pull them into the heart, feel them ignite at the level of the heart as the yin and yang energies meet. Exhale anything that doesn't serve you right now. And now just notice how relaxed you feel and feel gratitude for this ability to let go, to sink into just being present. This sense of presence is always available to you, but the mind tends to wander. But you're not a slave to the mind. It's a pattern of energy. Breathe in peace. What does that feel like? Peace is always here, beyond the story of you, which is very real. It's the only story you know while you're in this body, and you've put it together piece by piece. But at times, those pieces don't serve us. They cause us to criticize ourselves, to criticize and judge others, to feel separate from each other, to feel separate and alone. And nothing could be farther from the truth. At the deeper levels, you are truly connected with all of creation, beyond the story, beneath the story. Peace is already here. Have you taken the time to set the story aside? It will arise as pieces. We set the intention now to become more aware in the coming days, in the coming weeks and hours, of how the story plays over and over like a hamster on a wheel. Round and round it goes, not going anywhere, keeping us trapped in the story. But we are conscious agents, aware beings at a deeper level beyond the story. And all it takes is harnessing the soul's awareness to step off the wheel, to simply step aside. Picture yourself in any form going round and round and round. It's exhausting. But now, using your creative visualization, your God-given gift of creating with the mind, using your free will to visualize what is helpful for you, step off the treadmill of your story. Create a seat for yourself now, one that's very comfortable, and sink down into it. Off to the side there on that hamster wheel, the treadmill, whatever you're visualizing for the story playing out, you're off to the side now. You now have perspective. You can look over at it and say, ah, yes, there is my story. How is it serving me in this moment? Set it aside, if only for a brief moment, and take a breath. Sink into this beautiful chair that's cradling you now. Ask a guide or loved one to lower down around you the softest blanket you can imagine. It's warm, it's inviting, It envelops you. You feel so loved here in this beautiful chair to the side of the story. This is peace. And yet perhaps you're still visualizing yourself as a body sitting in the chair. What if you were to realize there is a part of you even beyond the body? An energetic part of you that, yes, can hold the form of your body if you'd like. Make a choice now to step even to the side of the body in the chair as a sparkling light. Drift out of the body. It will remain there. But take that extra step even farther beyond the story now. Feel yourself as the light, perhaps sparkling, perhaps just glowing. And what are you aware of? I am. Beyond the story, beyond the body, what remains? Awareness. Here, I am. In this moment, there is only now. And here, I am. This is peace. Being present creates peace with the body, without a body. Peace is innately an aspect of your true nature. Sit for a moment and simply be. This peace. And there, in this moment, you have just had the experience of all those now experiencing peace. And the most basic of all awareness, I am. This is a shared experience of oneness. This peace is innately present in all beings, in all humans. Yet because of the focus on the body that is now 2 steps away from this, many do not experience peace, yet it is as close as the breath. Breathe in peace yet again. This peace can become present in awareness more and more often, the more you dedicate yourself to simply being. The smallest investment of moments of simply being, aware of being, will bring peace into your everyday story. Roll around in this feeling of peace now. Soak it up. This is a respite from the story, and it is always right here. It is not outside of you. It is innately you. Breathe in peace. As you breathe it in, feel your light beyond the body burning even brighter. What you felt earlier as yourself as the light now has higher voltage. And yet, peace remains. For this peace, this light, is beyond the story. You have created this brighter light through your choice to step beyond the story and beyond the body and rest for a while as the light. And now, with this experience, having had this personal experience of being peace, of being the light, of being itself, as this brighter light of peace, step back into the body in the sanctuary of the chair, being aware now of this soft blanket that cradles you. Feel the peace that you've brought back into this chair. It has not gone anywhere. And yet you are radiating a higher vibration, that of peace, that of knowing I am the light of awareness. All are this light. They may have lost awareness of this for now, but I hold it in experience. And now take this awareness, take the gift of awareness and step back onto the treadmill, back into the story, bringing with you this brighter light. The story continues round and round. On and on it goes. You may not always be able to control the story, but peace is beyond any need for control. It accompanies you always. And now back within the story of you, you are aware. The peace is here. I have brought it with me, and I am shining brighter through my own efforts, through my own will, through my own choices. I am the light, regardless of whether I'm on the treadmill in the story, sitting to the side in a sacred sanctuary of expanded awareness, or simply being the light. I am peace. I have harnessed this innate aspect of myself, my higher self, and brought it fully in awareness into my story. What a blessing. I now choose to use this awareness to bless all others. I take this peace, I take this light that we all share, and I send it outwards, radiating it upon our world. And in so doing, in turning up my light, in radiating peace outward, most especially joining others doing so as one field of light, we affect our world. It is felt, and peace is radiating outward. Having had this experience, I know that as each human comes to know they are not only human, but a soul, a beautiful expression of the one light, peace will reign on earth, in the hearts of each being. And it is our solemn wish, our sacred prayer, that this come into conscious awareness of all those who feel this stirring in the heart. Feel gratitude for having this experience of your true nature, your eternal self, the light. Feel gratitude for Spirit guiding this experience, and know that these spirits, this light, are part of you. With gratitude, and knowing that this peace is always accessible, always here, now. Commit to carrying this peace forward, permanently transformed in knowing I am peace. Knowing it's not going anywhere. Bring your awareness back into the body. Feel the body now. Appreciate this beautiful vessel that gives us the opportunities to practice being the presence of light. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Take in a refreshing breath. Open your eyes and come back into the story. Gratitude to Sanaya for that. Gratitude to all of you for making that experience possible. And awe at the spirit world for the timing of this. There's the end of our 2 hours together. I know there's a lot we didn't get to, so we'll just carry that over to next month, but Spirit knows what they're doing. Some really great teaching from the spirit world. Beautiful guided meditation. I know we didn't get to answer too many questions from all of you, but I have a feeling a lot of things were answered anyway. We are going to make that meditation a separate standalone recording that will be available on my website to anybody. And so you'll have it on this recording, but if you want others to experience it, we'll let you know in an email when it's available as a gift. What a gift it is to know who we really are. What a gift all of you are to us, what Deb and Lynette and my whole team are to this work. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Can you see why I love you all? I see you. I know who you are. Yeah, I see you. I hope to see you in person or online in the future. In the meantime, many blessings. Have a great week. Bye-bye, everybody.